Char Margolis, Char Communications Incorporated, and CharVision LLC do not endorse or offer for any purpose but entertainment the views of any guest or other expert on CharVision or UBN.
I knew things before they happened from the time I was a child. At the age of 8, I saw a spirit at the foot of my bed and didn't know what it was. And in my 20s, I finally realized I had a special ability that could help others. I have learned that love never dies. There is a spirit world that can communicate with us, and we all have the gift of intuition. Join me, and together we will explore the possibilities of the unknown from beyond and more. This is CharVision. Hi, everybody. Happy Christmas. Merry Hanukkah. Happy Kwanzaa. Today is our holiday show, and Sonny dressed up for you. Here, you can see he's got his sweater and his bow tie on. And today I have a very special guest who I've just met, but it's my new favorite person. And his name is Dr. Joe Hooper. He is the head spiritual person at the Center for Spiritual Living in Palm Desert. Now, there's a lot of different spiritual centers, and I've met some of the other people, but I can honestly say that this man speaks from his heart, is down to earth. I can tell he doesn't believe in gurus. I've had a chance to talk to some of the people who attend his establishment, and they adore and love him. And well, let's bring him in. Joe, Dr. Joe.
I'm here.
Okay. Hi.
What a great introduction. I feel like, how am I going to live up to that?
Well, it really, I say it from the bottom of my heart. I really, truly mean it. And
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I was born and raised in a teaching called Unity.
Uh-huh.
So I've always been a spiritual person.
Okay.
And I went on to become a flight attendant when I was very young, and I did that for several years. And I retired from that when my partner and I adopted a newborn baby. And after that, something happened. There was an incident, an interaction, if you will, with the science of mind teaching that really, it was a wake-up call. I actually went to a practitioner, Dr. Anita Richelieu, who was in Redondo Beach at the time, and that's where we lived. I had a session with her because my partner and I really wanted to adopt. We were on a list. We were waiting. And so we met with her, and she said, before you left, is the baby's room ready? And I said, no, because I would get depressed if I look at it every day. She said, no, go home and put that room together. And she said, so she did her prayer. She said, go home, put that room together. And 10 days later, we had a call that said, you've been chosen. So
goosebumps.
Yeah, that was amazing. And the way the whole situation unfolded, there wasn't anything random about it. It was a spiritual thing. And so from that point on, I started taking classes, and eventually it led to becoming the spiritual director in Palm Desert.
And you manifested having your darling little girl who's gorgeous. I've seen photos. I don't know if we have photos of her, but she's gorgeous. And I guess I forgot to tell everybody how special this is, because you and your partner are the first same-sex couple to adopt a child in America.
Well, in California, we were the first same-sex couple to jointly petition the courts. People used to adopt, gay couples used to adopt, and one person would adopt, and then 6 months later, they would do what they call an add-on. But we blazed the trail in 1997, 98. And the laws changed after that, and it opened up the gates for people to have families. So yeah, we were the first, and it was kind of a neat experience
in California. That's amazing.
In California.
What kind? Forgive the pun, but what kind of hoops did you have to jump through?
Several, actually. The judge called us to Los Angeles, and they said, bring the baby. And he started reprimanding my attorney for saying, how dare you file this? It violates state law and all these statutes that he just rattled off. And so then after that, my attorney was sort of like, well, they kind of made me, we forced the issue. It was our idea to do this. And so after that, he told the attorney to sit down, and he swore us in, and he would ask a question, and I would, proudly answer. I was holding on to Carly at the time, and I would just start crying. And then Trey would finish my sentence. My partner would finish my sentence or my thought, and I would compose myself. He would ask another question. I would start bawling, and then Trey would finish the thought. So it was that interplay that the judge finally said, you know what, it's time, and the laws are going to be changing soon, so we might as well go ahead and do this now.
How old is Carly?
She just turned 20.
Wow.
Yeah, she's beautiful.
And the Today Show just did a story on you, didn't they?
Yeah, they're in the process, actually. They wanted to do on the NBC.com, but it's become more than that. So they actually want to film us. So that's kind of it's going to happen after the new year. They want to do an actual piece on us, I guess. I don't know.
Okay, so that's really exciting because I watched the Today Show. So I'm definitely gonna watch that. So okay, so you were a flight attendant.
Yes.
Your husband is a pilot?
Yeah, he's a captain for Alaska Airlines.
He's a captain for Alaska Airlines.
Yeah.
Wow. And your daughter, can I tell them?
Sure. She's she's a flight instructor right now. She just got her multi-engine instrument ability to teach, and so she's got her single engine, multi-engine. She's got all this instrument rating. She's all rated up, and now she actually has her first student on Saturday. So she starts teaching on Saturday.
That's exciting. And how long has she been flying?
She just started about a year ago. It was out of the clear blue. She decided, imagine our surprise when we got a phone call saying, I want to fly. And we said, don't you think you should take a lesson first? So she took a lesson, and next thing you know, there's a school, there's a school in Long Beach, and they really fast tracked this training. And that's exactly what she did. She literally did about 4 years of education in 11 months. And she worked really hard.
That's amazing. So, okay. So one of the reasons that I wanted you on today is because I know that a lot of people have a hard time during the holidays, and your establishment is non-denominational, so it's spiritual, which is really amazing. Right. So I know you guys celebrated Hanukkah. Right. You celebrate Christmas. I understand you have an amazing Christmas service that you do. Yeah. I also want to tell everybody, because I'm going to say this more than once today. Dr. Joe is magical, and you guys can watch him. You can watch him. How do people watch online? Well, there's two ways you can do it. We live stream every Sunday. Okay. So every Sunday at what time? 9 o'clock Pacific. 9 and 11. Yeah. Pacific time. And so Eastern time, it's 12. Yeah, 12. 2? It would be 12 and 2. 12 and 2, not 12 to 2. 12 and 2. Right. Okay. Yeah. And 9 and 11, 12 and 2. Yeah. And so they can do that, or they can just go to our website and click on past services and actually watch the lessons themselves. So they usually upload the lesson about 3 days after Sunday. So if you can't make it live, you can always go to our website at cslpalmdesert.org and click on past services, and there's just a whole host of things that you can choose from. That's so exciting. So, and can they sign up for your YouTube channel? Is that what they do? Or you know what? I'm terrible about that. The office knows. So when you go to the website, it will automatically direct you to everything. Perfect. I am so technically challenged. Perfect. I'm just okay. Somebody else has to know all that stuff. Okay, so I'm familiar with some of the things you do, and being a flight attendant, you have this whole guidance thing you do. And in analogy with flying and people taking care of themselves. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Well, actually, it was one of the very first talks I did when I became a minister, and it kind of put me on the map. I got dressed up as a flight attendant, but I put a suit over everything. And at the very beginning, I said, when you see someone on the outside, you really don't know what goes on the inside or what their past looks like. So I began taking my suit off, slowly but surely, and people are like, what is he doing? And next thing you know, I'm wearing a flight attendant uniform,
And I grabbed all the demo pieces, the oxygen mask, the seatbelt, safety card. And I just went from the very beginning of the flight attendant demo to the very end. And I talked about, fasten your seatbelts, and you fasten your seatbelt always, whether you're, seated or whether you're up. You just make sure that your seatbelt's always fastened, because you just never know where you're going to hit some clear air turbulence. And the metaphysical point is this: we always keep our spiritual seatbelt on. We never know what's going to happen. And so we make sure that we take care of ourselves. And there's a lot of self-care that goes with, making sure you're spiritually buckled in. And then I talked about the oxygen mask. And when the oxygen mask drops, you have to take an action. It doesn't just magic. It appears, but you have to reach up and pull it down,
right.
Which means when something happens, you just can't wait for it to show up. You have to take action and make something happen. It's your lifeline. And then you put it over your mouth and nose. You make the necessary life adjustments. And then there's this little phrase that says, at the very end, it says, passengers traveling with small children, secure your mask first, then offer assistance, which spiritually means you can't take care of other people until you take care of yourself, because eventually your ability to give and assist people, it becomes depleted if there is no self-care.
I think it's so special that you say that. I've said that to my clients, not knowing. I didn't really steal it from you because I didn't know that you say that. But it's so great that you're helping your congregation learn self-love.
Oh, definitely. And because self-love is the origin of all love. I mean, if it starts with us, I mean, there's an old, the old song, the peace song, peace begins with me, love begins with me. And, when it starts with me, then I can branch out into my family, my coworkers, and then it goes into my community, my county, my country. It goes far beyond that. But if I don't have it inside myself, it's going to be impossible for me to create a world that works for everyone.
I've talked to a few. I was honored and fortunate to be able to do an event at Dr. Joe's establishment. And what do you call it? Do you call it a church? What do you call it?
They call it's a center. We used to call it
Center for Spiritual Living.
Yeah, Center for Spiritual Living. It used to be called a
center.
church, but we have so many Jewish people that wanted to come
Right.
that they didn't feel like they could go into a church. And I said,
Right.
I don't care what you call it. It's just a building.
Right.
And so ever since we became a center, it really opened up to, we have everything. We have Buddhists and Jewish people and Catholics and from every different background and no background at all. So it's really not I don't call it non-denominational though. I call it interdenominational.
I really wish our world was run like that and our government was run like that.
Yeah.
Where everybody was accepted and everybody's loved and everybody is respected for who they are as human beings.
Well, that's exactly right. We're trying, our mission is to create a world that works for everyone. And that means we're going to have to be really tolerant with one another. And I think that all this shift and things that we're seeing going on in the world right now, it's posturing us to make those changes. It's putting us in a position. Yeah. The polarization of things is people are focusing on the polarization of different, religions and people. And I'm thinking, I want to focus on the fact that there's more good in the world than not good.
Right.
And that eventually this polarization is going to shift because there's going to become an intolerance to intolerance.
Well, if people are labeled, it always causes prejudice.
Oh, absolutely.
So when you're not labeled, it's like, okay, all for one and one for all.
Yeah, and that's what we do. We welcome all pathways and traditions to our faith center. And we tell people that's in our opening line that we say when we first step in, we honor all spiritual pathways. There's several, there's some big religions and it's like they have a super highway going up the mountain. And then there's those of us who kind of made our individual trek, our individual connection with spirit, and we don't really call it by name or have a dogma or a doctrine, but it's still a valid path up the same mountain. It's the same mountain, just different ways to get up there.
I had a few readings with some people in your congregation, and literally they say, Dr. Joe saved me. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for him. Seriously, you have people who you've really healed and you've made a huge difference with.
Well, thank you.
And
And I don't want to, that, it's so funny when someone says something like that, you go, wow,
I know
it's,
you're
it's
humble.
never me. Yeah. It's never me. It's something that works through me. Like something works through you. You're
Right.
just the vehicle by which it speaks. And
Right.
when you become open and receptive to those messages, like on a Sunday morning,
Mhm.
people can ask me, what did you say about this? And I'm like, you're going to have to buy the CD, man. I have no idea what I said.
Exactly.
It just flows out. And so that channeling is just something I feel very fortunate that I can tap into. And look, I'm a real person, and I have all these real things going on in my life. I mean,
Right.
you can't raise a kid and be gay and have all of the things going on in the world that
Uh-huh.
are going on without having some sort of impact on even the most spiritual person. So my lessons are all about how do we cope with the things that are going on every day, because it becomes chaotic. And I really have a hard time with people who try to preach or give sermons or lessons from this is what you should do, and this is what what we're told to do, versus, hey, look, I'm dealing with this too, so let's sort this out spiritually together and come to a solution.
But
So that's sort of the way I handle it.
you're amazingly responsible
Thank you.
for what you do. And I so respect you, because it's not easy having a bunch of people that need you all the time.
Yeah, it's a challenge. It's
It's
you
a
know
big
I
challenge.
love it. I love it. It's not something I ever thought I would do. I mean, I was a flight attendant, and my partner and I've been together. My husband and I've been together 29 years, and
Wow.
I was a flight attendant. He was a pilot, and the last thing he ever thought he would be doing would be marrying a minister. So, I mean, he's been on the roller coaster for 29 years, and thank God he's extremely tolerant and loving and forgiving, because, yeah, it's been quite a ride. So I never intended to do that, but it just sort of happened. It just, evolved.
It's
And
your
I,
purpose. It's your
yeah,
purpose on the earth.
it feels good. I feel when I'm up there talking on a Sunday or counseling, it's my right place.
Well,
It feels right.
I don't want to embarrass you, but truthfully, I have friends who drag me to gurus, who take me to other ministers, who take me to different places. And honestly, I've resonated with you more than anyone this year, or always. And I just feel like you are a gift to people.
Thank you.
And I love that that everybody here can watch your sermons on Sunday morning, and especially the Christmas one. It's supposed to be incredible.
Yeah, the candlelight service on Christmas Eve will be really nice. Yeah. And I think we're gonna live stream the 5:30 p.m. So it'd be 8:30 p.m. on the East Coast. So yeah, there's going to be a live stream there. But I did want to get back to something you mentioned earlier, and you were going to talk about people in the holidays. Didn't you
Yeah.
mention something about that?
Yeah, I
And
want to
how,
talk about that. That was my next
yeah,
question.
yeah. So let's talk about that, because I know a lot of people have experienced great losses. My friends, myself included. I had one of my best friends who was 51. He made his transition with cancer in a matter of 60 days from diagnosis to leaving this planet. And
Recently?
yeah, just recently.
I'm
So
so sorry.
you know what? And
It's life, I know.
I met with his partner yesterday or over the weekend, and just to hear him and how he's growing spiritually,
Oh, wow.
it's been a real different experience. But we talked about that. We talked about how to cope with the holidays, and also just the whole idea moving forward.
Wait,
Period.
is
After
that the
someone
spirit?
dies.
Is that Mark? The spirit Mark?
Yeah, Mark. Yeah, yeah. Chris is just amazing, and I was so glad that you were able to tap into that, because that meant so much for Chris. He sort of needed that. But anyway, let me get back to what I
Yeah,
was
go
going to say.
ahead. I'm sorry.
So no, that's okay. I just wanted to say that when I was talking with my friends, and I
Uh-huh.
said, when you create a vision board, you've heard of a vision board, right? Where
Yep.
there's 4 different parts. There's relationships.
Yep.
There's your spiritual journey. There is your finances, your health, and your creativity and your money.
And also be
And
careful what you ask for, you might get it.
exactly. So make sure you have something on the vision board. But
Yeah.
we were talking about what happens when someone makes their transition. What happens to your vision board? And I said, well, your vision board doesn't change, but the characters change in the vision board,
Uh-huh.
because the universe will always, what we say, people your experience. Whatever you want to demonstrate, the universe always creates people that come into your life for whatever reason, or for whatever length of time. But that doesn't change the vision. It just changes the people that you're sharing it with. So you have to make sure that you're really clear on your vision of happiness
Mm-hmm.
and right loving relationships. And so after someone makes their transition, no one wants to rush into a relationship. But if you
No.
keep your vision on happiness and companionship and whatever intimacy, that eventually, when you're ready and the universe is ready, the two will meet up. So during the holidays, I tell people, especially the year of firsts are so difficult.
Yeah.
The first Christmas, the first holiday, the first birthday, the first anniversary. It's just like a soccer ball just kind of hitting you in the face. And it stings and it hurts. And it's just one of those things you have to move through. But I tell people, if you can change your routine just a little bit, change your routine just a little bit. Don't go drastically changing things, but change just a little bit and leave room for family and other support systems to come in at times when you normally would have had an experience with the other person. That's kind of how what I recommend during the holidays.
Wow. But so do you have do they come for special prayers or counseling or?
Yeah. A lot of people come in, right about this time of year and actually into the new year because they just don't know where they're going to head. They don't know where they're going and they don't know what's next. So we just talk about how to establish the spiritual seeds of growth in their own life, how to plant those so they're able to start moving on. It's just like a little seed planted in the soil. You don't know that it's going to become this giant tree. You don't know what it's going to become. You know what you're planting, but you don't know how long it's going to take to get there. So we just have to reestablish what the future looks like. And so it's a lot. There's a lot of people that are coming in this time of year feeling that disconnect.
And that's in loneliness and sadness.
Yeah. Oh, very much so. They're grieving. It's just, that's the only word to describe it. It's grieving. And you just, I hate to say this, but you just have to keep moving through it day by day. And it does get better day after day.
I will be honest about this. The energy at your center you can feel the energy and it's very healing.
Yeah. We've created an environment like that.
Yeah. You have.
Yeah, it's by design. It's. I think people, when they go into a spiritual community, no matter where it is, it can be sort of jarring in an experience if you're not familiar with what they're doing. And so I liken it to. I always tell people, look, I try to create a water temperature that's the same as your skin. So when you come into the center, you just sort of feel like you're just sliding into a place where it's not too hot, it's not too cold. It's a perfect little blend for your body, and nothing's going to jolt you or, knock you off your seat or surprise you.
It's kind of like being in the womb.
Yeah, exactly. We try to create exactly like a spiritual room where your rebirth will take place.
It's a rebirth.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's profoundly wonderful.
Well, that's what around the holiday season, because we are interdenominational, because we include all religions. When you talk about Christmas and you talk about the birth of the Christ consciousness, and how do you take that and make it into an interdenominational idea? And it's the rebirth of love. It's the rebirth of being non-judgmental. It's the rebirth of unconditional acceptance. So that's what happens this time of year. And if we celebrate that, then that's a universal thread. There's this universal thread that weaves into all religions. We just have to find it. I just got back from Australia, New Zealand, and to listen to the Aboriginal story and traditions and some of their sacred events, and to find how it weaves together with ours, it just felt so comforting. And then we lit the first night of Hanukkah candle at our last service, and to have one of our practitioners, she stood up and described what it means to her. And then she gave a metaphysical interpretation about how it weaves a common thread with us. And so it was really beautiful, because I really do believe that there's a common thread with all people and all philosophies or spirituality, religion, whatever you want to call it. We just have to tune into the commonalities and stop, reflecting indifference and intolerance when there's something that's different.
Well, for so many years I've been teaching people about life after death and that there's guardian angels. And I remember once saying to I'm not going to say who it was, but it was somebody who was a religious leader. Well, why in the Bible does it say, you know, the angel of death during Passover came and saved all the little Jewish boys from being killed? They marked the doors so they wouldn't be killed. And he said, oh, that's just a myth. That's just a myth, you know. And I said, but every religion talks about guardian angels.
Yeah, they do. They you know, there's always when we believe that there's an eternality of life.
Mm-hmm.
It was so interesting. I have to share a story with you.
I would love
So
to hear
the other night I was with some friends and we were having a drink up at the hotel, and this woman, I've never met her before, and she was a veterinarian, and she was an absolutist. She said, you know what, there's when you die and you're dead and nothing goes on. I said, well, really? I said, that's kind of interesting. So it just so happened that my friends who had a reading from you were there. And I said, so do you believe that what happened was real? And she's like, well, yeah. And I said, okay, so who's that person talking to? I mean, how is this person relating if there's no energy whatsoever? How is this person relating to an energy and conveying things from an energy that doesn't exist because you said it just stops there?
Right.
And she's like, oh my God, I never thought about that. I'm like, honey, see, there is an energy that started before you became you. There, you know, the universe needed to be you.
Right.
And so your parents just happened to be the vehicle by which it brought that you into this human experience. But there is an energy before there was even conception, and that energy continues throughout this life here on this planet. And then we don't know what happens when you make your transition, but energy just changes form. That's why we don't call it death in our philosophy. We call it transition, because transition means change. So when someone transitions, their life changes and our life transitions and changes. So but the energy's consistent. It goes somewhere. We just don't know what that is.
Yeah, E equals MC square, right?
That's it. And it just changes form.
And we are spirits with bodies.
Yep.
Do
with
you
flesh
say that
suits.
too? Do you say that in your
I say we're spirits with flesh suits on.
With flesh suits on.
And certain amounts of hair. Some of us have more than others, but so yeah.
Yeah. And okay, so wow. Well, thank you for saying that. That's interesting to me because there's so many people who want to believe but are also afraid to believe. Because I think if they go, oh, you mean like when I cross over, I still have responsibilities and I still am going to be existing? You mean it's not done? And you know, it's not done.
Well, and you more than anybody would know what those conversations look like. I have my own philosophy about what transitions feel like and will occur.
What is your philosophy? I'd love to hear it.
It's sort of like, when I think about my sister and I think, you know what, I need to call my sister, and suddenly the phone rings and it's my sister.
Yeah.
Or my mother or Trey or my daughter or whatever it is, people I'm really close to, there's an energy that I think about them and boop, up comes an email or a text message or something. And that's not a coincidence. I think there's an energy, and that energy connects people to each other. And I think when you make your transition, you transition to an energy that's pure love, and that you're not going to show up in physical form. So it's like, I'm not going to see the physical Joe, but I'm going to feel the love qualities that existed in people that I'll recognize that loved me. And so it's a surrounding of love by those who you were loved by.
I love that philosophy. That philosophy makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and it does, and so that's why I always say, if you're a stinker here, you're going to be a stinker there. Because if you've repelled a lot of people in your life, that even when you make your transition, you still have a repelling energy. I don't believe that that kind of energy changes. So I tell people, you really got to be square with the house and all your people and your family and your coworkers and all that. Be as square with the house as you can, so that you're just coming from a place of love and unconditional acceptance and not being judgmental. So if you make your transition, and when you make your transition, you're doing it and you're sliding in to experience that is continually surrounded by love because you created that in your life.
Are they parishioners? I don't know what you call the people that come to you are so lucky that you're there because you're really a messenger. I feel like there's certain people on the earth who do God's work, and my dad always said God is love and love is God, and I really believe you're one of those pure people. Gene Houston said, "Guru is just as it's spelled, Guru."
Right.
And that's what you teach to people. Right. You teach, you empower people.
Yeah.
Actually,
I want to call it, I remind people, RE capital M, RE capital MIND, which means I re-God them. I remind them about who they came from, whose they are, and that their origin is from whatever you want to call it, God, Spirit, Lord, whatever it is. But I remind them who they are, because we often forget, because let's face it, society does not necessarily support our own individuality sometimes. So, right. and all this intolerance and bickering back and forth, that doesn't support that. So it's really interesting that when we can remind people, RE capital M meaning whatever infinite universal presence you believe in, when you remind them who they are and empower them, then they can go out into the world and do great things.
I will never see that word the same again. It's
a reminding, and it's also reprogramming your mind. It's not just reminding, but it's also reprogramming your mind, because it can be easily programmed with all, and the subconscious mind picks up all the noise in the world.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of noise out there, and people are, they insist on having the news on 24 hours a day, and and reflecting on all the things that are wrong with the world. And that's just noise coming in, and you have to recreate what the mind is listening to. Mm-hmm. And you have to be very intentional about it, or you'll get, swept up into it.
Well, because it makes people fearful.
Yeah.
And you can't live in fear all the time.
Well, and that's what we're doing right now. That's what causes recessions and depressions and all those things. Mm-hmm. If there's just a fear and overall energy that's permeating, that we have got to switch that energy. We have to transition and transform that energy.
Is there a special protection thing you do with your people?
Protection?
Yeah, like a protection prayer that you.
Not really, because I don't ever, from where we are, there's nothing to be protected from, because when you come from that place,
right,
you will draw onto your experience more of that stuff.
Okay.
So we empower them to become their own universal intelligence, and that we remind them that this is your energy, this is who you are,
and you empower them.
And I always say, stand and authorize your experience. The universe is listening to you, and it wants you to stand and authorize your experience. Don't wish, don't beg, don't bargain, don't hope. You know, and you claim it to be yours. And so I say, just stand and authorize your experience, and the universe will conspire to create that. But you have to have the spiritual authority within yourself to know that you're worthy, you're valuable, you're lovable, you are love, you have every right to experience peace and prosperity and health and abundance and balance and order in your life. And all those things, all the attributes of God are your attributes, because before you were brought in, you were spiritually, what I call the spiritual genetics, your spiritual DNA had all of the good stuff that God is, and it's still within you. That doesn't mean it's always there, because it's always appearing, because sometimes we push it down.
Right.
But for the most part, I think that, as long as we recognize that that's our spiritual genetic makeup, mm-hmm. we can walk into and empower a lot of people.
And you break down their insecurities and build their confidence by owning their power.
Well, yeah. And I show them that I have the same insecurities. So I'm no different than they are. That's why I don't talk from a dais or a stage or anything like that. I walk down and walk amongst them, because I should actually be sitting next to them. And I tell them that every week. It's like, I should be sitting next to you because I'm angry about some things that happened this week and I'm upset and my fear has surfaced itself. So I'm going to process it in front of you. And then maybe you can see yourself and we can walk out feeling better about not just ourselves, but the world in general.
Okay. You just brought such tears to my eyes.
So that's what we teach. And I think the more people that come into alignment with that,
Because it's true. I mean, you are the real deal. You are pure and real and caring and a messenger for healing and love.
Yeah. I tell my people I'm fabulous and flawed.
Right. Well,
I'm fabulous and I'm also flawed. We're all of that because we're human beings. So we're supposed to be great and we're also supposed to experience our own humanity.
Mm-hmm.
So if you just are easier, and I'm the hardest one on myself. So when I be easier with myself and take care of myself and recognize that it's okay to be flawed and I just have to work on that, then it makes me a better teacher.
Wow. Okay, you're giving me and everybody a lot to think about tonight. I'm so grateful to you. So, do you have any feelings like? Do you ever get like intuitive feelings like about what's going on in the world or what's going to happen in 2018, or do you ever get any kind of feelings about where we're going?
I have a very strong intuition, and I've learned to hone in on that. In my position, though, I have to be very careful,
right?
Because I don't want people to take actions based on my intuition, rather their intuition.
Right. So that's
smart. I have to make sure that I'm very responsible when I'm forward looking,
right?
That I'm not projecting my own ego or my own vision, but allowing people to come to their own. So, many times, I have real predictions that I sit with and I'll share with some friends or Trey, and sure enough, they unfold and they're like, and Elizabeth, you met my director of operations.
I love Elizabeth. Elizabeth, who works for you, is incredible. And Julie and everybody there, and William.
Yeah.
They embrace me like family.
Well, of course, that's what we are. So, and that's our philosophy. It's like anybody that comes in, you got to treat them like they're, in our home. So, but like Elizabeth, she thinks it's so funny because I can predict how many people are going to show up to an event almost to the number. I can predict all sorts of things. And she's like, why don't you play the lottery? If you know all this stuff, play the lottery. Why aren't you winning big money doing this? It's like, it's not that kind of thing, but no, it's there's this energy there, and it's that God energy. And when I take time to quiet the noise, around our that's around us all the time. I mean, it's really interesting. I'll tell you a quick story. Do we have time for a quick story?
I want to hear every story.
So my sister's deaf, and she had the mumps when she was 4 years old, and she became profoundly deaf her whole life.
Oh my!
And later in her late 40s, early 50s, I think, she got a cochlear implant. The things that allowed her to begin hearing.
Wow!
And so, just to talk about the noise of things, it's a noise related thing. So she got the cochlear implant, and there's a real adjustment period of fine tuning it and making sure it's not. But these nerves that have never had any exposure were now being stimulated again. So they were very, very sensitive, and there was a heightened awareness to all these different sounds. So we were over at her house, and I was actually counting paper plates. The little tick of a paper plate when you're counting it?
Yeah.
And she's looking around and said, "What is that noise? It's so loud." And here it's just the little tick of the paper plate. And she's like, and I'm like, "That's what this is." She's like, "It's so loud." And I'm thinking, here's somebody who hasn't been exposed to a lot of sounds.
Right.
And imagine the noise that we live at on a daily basis, with just a refrigerator humming or an air conditioner or the traffic or a gardener or anything, whatever it is. There's a constant sound in our life, and it's very challenging to get to a place where we are without that. There are very few places we can go where there's just not a background noise that our bodies pick up. So working on that premise, it's a challenge to get into a place where you can center yourself, because the universe doesn't support it. There's something
Right.
vibrating or dinging or ringing or whatever it is all the time.
Right.
So you have to make intentional efforts to make sure you get to that space
But
of
there's
quiet time.
but there's so much noise, as you said, going on in the world and
Oh,
in our lives, besides people honking the horn at us, that it's like you got to weed through it all to be centered, to listen to the guidance.
yeah, it's chaotic. It's if you let it be chaotic, it can be chaotic and maddening. Actually, I just got back from New York City, and I can only take New York for a couple of days because it's the vibration and the constant noise that
It
you just
is.
cannot escape. And it's like, okay, I'm getting too old and too intolerant for that or something. But I also recognize that it does something to my physical body. It makes me feel
I'm
that
the
way.
same. I'm the same. It's everybody's energy. You're feeling all these people walking by you in their energy.
Yeah. Oh, and the cars and the honking and
Oh,
the machinery and all just so. I just really promote that, and especially around the holiday period. It's a time of rebirth and reflection. So let's look at that. Let's look at what we're allowing in the holiday period to happen, the light within us to shine, and how do we get to that authentic light? And that, I believe, it takes time to go into that quiet space and to just go to the nothingness of things. A lot of time people go into their quiet time or meditation looking for an answer. And I'm like, stop looking for an answer and just be, and then open the window so that you give permission for the answer to come in. Because it's like you're pushing against a closed door when you're searching for the answer at that point in time. Just go to that space where I call it white space. Go to your
right.
white space thinking and just know that there's something supporting you, loving you, and conspiring to create something good within you. That's how the solution will come forward. Stop looking for that in the moment. Just know it's there and it's coming.
I want to wish all the Char visionaries a wonderful holiday and happy, healthy, prosperous New Year. But I would be really honored if you could say a prayer for us
Sure.
all, and then we'll just leave with your. I would love for you to be. I would be honored for you to do that.
All right, no problem. So this is how I pray. And so you can join me with and use my words as your own if you choose.
Okay.
So I just recognize that there is one power and one presence in this universe. And that divine intelligence, that power of love created you, created me, created all things and all beings. And so as I know and I embrace that one power, I recognize that love is coming forth through everything. Love is coming forth through every person that I interact with. Love is coming forth because I am bringing love to the table this season. I'm allowing myself to be more patient and kind. I allow myself to be more, to listen more and speak less. I allow myself to center on that one universal intelligence and energy that creates love and peace and prosperity. It creates health, abundance, balance, and order. It creates joy and laughter. And so I allow myself right now, right here in this moment, to be a receptor, a conveyor, a transformer of that energy for myself and for all those people around me. I move consciously into a state of authenticity and integrity with the way I approach things. And it's always from a place of love, unconditional acceptance, and no judgment. I refuse to judge. I sit in peace, and I do not allow myself to move into any controversy. I allow myself to stay in the silence and reflect upon that personal energy that's moving in, around, and through me. And I allow myself to radiate that perfect light into every situation that I'm in this holiday season. And so recognizing that the divine intelligence works perfectly, effortlessly, and easily and gracefully, I simply let this be so. And as I release my word into that universal law, it knows exactly how to do what needs to be done. I will know what to say when I need to say it. I will know what to do when I need to do it. I will know what I need to know at the moment I need to know it, because the universe that created me in its image and likeness is always with me, guiding, sustaining, and maintaining me. For this, I'm so eternally grateful. I let it be so, and so it is. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much for being with us. You guys,
You're welcome.
listen to his sermons. He's special. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. All the best.
Thank you. Good night. Happy holiday to you.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.